It's CORSO and CATONE. Brought to you by CORSO Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Now for the real deal New England feel. CORSO and CATONE.
Welcome into CORSO and CATONE, the real deal New England feel. I'm CORSO. CATONE's here shaking his head. This is monotonous. Is this like this intro?
I mean, you hear
come
this
on,
in your
sleep now when you
well,
wake
no,
up?
first of all, the kid, we've been waiting for the show, Joe. He's got tech issues. Like,
I know.
no.
Well, hopefully you don't have tech issues out there because you'll be watching us on YouTube, listening on iHeart, Apple Podcast. Anyway, you podcast, you can catch us. And, of course, 790 to score. And listen, when you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Give us that thumbs up. And so you never miss a show, get all our notifications. And give us a call and heated hotline, 855-313-PATS, P-A-T-S. Leave Mark a message. What a smart ass he is. The face he's making right now. Get on YouTube and watch the faces he's making at me right now, too. Or you can email us in our mailbag, corso.catone@gmail.com. Got a good one today in Weekly Rewind. I'm going to go back, look at that Bears game. And, of course, Catone's comments. Stick around for that. And we're going to talk B's and C's, Bruins and Celtics. You don't want to miss that. And, of course, our Mr. Fryer over here is going to have our PC Minute. Gentlemen.
Hey.
That's all I get. Hey, how was your week, guys? You have a good week?
Oh, great. Fantastic.
Coming off.
We're getting close to the holidays pretty soon. Thanksgiving.
I know it.
I'm disgusted. I don't want to talk about it. Humbug. You like the holiday? You like Thanksgiving, Mark?
I do like Thanksgiving, but I mean, we got listen, food.
Yeah. The mother of all dinners, all meals.
Possibly some alcohol and football all day. What else can you ask for?
That's true. They've added games too. So yeah, that's definitely true. As long as you don't have people coming over, so you don't have to deal with
that's a whole nother issue. Let's not get into that now.
Well, let's get in. Let's get into the issue and the matter at hand, and that's the Patriots against the Bears. We're going to do that in Weekly Rewind, Joe. Going back through the week. About a Weekly Rewind. 19-3, the Patriots come away with a much surprising win. If you listen to Catone last week in Sunday Spread, it was a surprising win.
Yes,
they go to Chicago, they win. I mean, come on, nobody was picking them to win.
No,
in that game.
Well, no, they weren't. You say a surprising win. I was surprised at how bad Chicago is because I didn't realize they were that bad. Oh my God,
I know.
Surprising score, more like it.
The fact that they only scored 3 points,
they only scored 3 points.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I had them, I picked the Patriots, but like with the spread to cover the spread, which they did, obviously.
They did. Yeah,
but I didn't pick them to win the game. I don't think anybody picked them to win the game. And Drake Maye, and we want to talk about the whole offense. We want to talk about Drake Maye. But before we get into that, Greg Bedard, we played Greg Bedard a lot on the show from the Boston Sports Journal because that's the guy we have a lot of respect for. And he had a few things this week to say about Maye versus Williams. Joe?
Can go is like what I see in the games. And I think that I think he's been very even keeled. You could tell, he's taking charge in terms of getting people
talking about Maye.
I think he's a, underrated thing. And we sort of saw the converse with the Bears today and Caleb Williams is that, Drake Maye's getting them in and out of the huddle, pretty quickly. They're getting to the line. They're doing some things like, the Bears just, they're very sloppy. They're getting to the line late. They have to take timeouts. They get false.
Yeah. And so, and they get false starts is what he was saying. And he was talking about Maye, basically our offense versus the Bears offense. Mark, were you surprised by how, because you had Caleb Williams,
Oh yeah, I had him as the number one pick in the draft. Absolutely, I did.
Were you surprised?
And I thought he would be better, or more. I should say more developed at this point of the season. And he is not. But I am going to say this. And maybe, Joe, wait for his reaction to this, Joe. Just wait for the reaction.
Are
Maybe
people going to want to get on YouTube to see my face?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe we got to give Alex Van Pelt a little props for the fact that he is where he is, because Chicago, like a day later, 2 days later, they fire their OC. And I think they're blaming the state of that offense and the development of Williams on the OC because he was fired. They haven't scored a touchdown in 3 weeks. So I know you and I bash him, Van Pelt, a lot, but is that why the development of where May is where it's at? I mean, yes, he's talented. May, I'm talking about, is talented. And we both agree that he was the right pick. And we think he's going to be a real good quarterback in this league. However, is Van Pelt just gets abused? Is he not getting the credit he deserves now, too?
Are you asking me that? Is that who
Yeah, of course. Who am I
that?
asking? No, of course I'm asking you. But I want to see the reaction of you.
Okay. I'm gonna give Van Pelt credit in this game. I was prepared to give him, all the coordinators and all the coaches, props for this week against the Bears. That being said, okay, when you look at Drake May, break it down though. So I mean, I've been hearing that a lot. You gotta give Van Pelt credit for Drake May. You gotta give him credit for Drake May. Well, let's talk about Drake May and let's talk about what he looks like.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to give him credit for his work under center, okay, when Drake May is under center, and I said this last week, when he drops back the pass and he's play acting, a lot of times when you're under center, it's a play action if it's going to be a pass, okay, and this style offense, which I hate. So play action pass. He's gotten between when we saw him in the summer to now, how he gets his hips whipped back around again and gets his eyes downfield and focused on progressions and his route combos and all the things that he needs to be looking at. He wasn't as good at that in the summer. He's gotten much better at that. So, and the fact that he's able to get his head around. In fact, in this game, he had an issue, a play like that where on play action he came around and all of a sudden there was a defensive end in his face, basically, and he sidearmed a ball out to Pop Douglas, out to the flat. So, if you want to give Van Pelt credit for that, or McAdoo, or somebody, I don't know who's doing it over there, but yeah, his work in the gun, that's what he's always done. You know, his bailing out of that pocket, he's always been doing that. Does he leave early? Too early sometimes? That was his issue. Is he hanging in the pocket a little more? Is he climbing the ladder like you're supposed to? Yeah. So if you want to give Van Pelt credit for that, although I don't know who's working with him directly every day, God, I don't want to give him credit. This is the problem, Mark.
But Chris, with that said,
Give him credit. Yes.
But with that said,
yeah,
he does throw that pick where he misses the sideline pattern where the linebacker is clearly there. He rolls out. I don't know what he was looking at, but he clearly misses the linebacker in his read of that. And that's not the first week that's happened to him. So on those particular plays, Chris, he's still struggling a bit.
The way he made it sound in his post game, and I want to play. We have some of him in his post game because I want to get to his leadership in a second, okay, and what he showed this week.
Yeah,
but the way he described that play is as if he was trying to throw it out of bounds. Now, if you go back and watch it and you see his body, the way it was contorted, he didn't get a lot on that throw. So I don't know if it said he didn't see him there or if he didn't get enough to get it out of bounds.
Okay.
Either way, it's a huge mistake.
Yeah.
But I love how he rebounded. Okay. I love how he rebounded. And by the way, he played well in the pocket. Couldn't run the ball this week. They clogged those, they were clogged in the middle of the field. They closed those middle gaps. And the way they blitzed, the blitz packages Chicago used against him kept him from coming out of the pocket. And they played a lot of zone too, which helps in that. When they played man, he was able to go. So he didn't have to rely on his feet this week, and he played really well. But talk about his leadership, Mark. And Well, you know what? Before you do that, let's hear from him, Joe. If we have that ready, let's hear his post game.
The broadcast said that you asked AVP if you could address the offense because you were a little bit frustrated with what you were seeing in practice. What exactly were you seeing that made you compelled to say something?
Yeah, I think just little things. I think just taking, that next step is me being the quarterback, in the offensive meeting room of, these little things that are adding up and hurting us in practice that are leading to game day. I think, last week I mentioned we had, second and third down and 2-minute drill that we ran it and we couldn't pick up 1 yard, little things like that, just a little detailed and focus. And I think sometimes you get in a practice mode where you're just running plays and not really tuned in and trying to execute, specific plays, trying to just get in a groove of, hey, we're just running plays out here just for nothing. And just really try to, challenge those guys and challenge myself to take each play and, know that, when the game comes, this play is called, it matters. There's so many times, throughout the game, you see how much that play can impact the turnout of the game. So I was just trying to get through to them and probably fumbled some words trying to do it, but I think those guys respected it.
So, Mark, yeah, I mean, that came out after the game that he addressed the team on Wednesday after practice because they look like crap. What do you think of that? Talk about his leadership.
Well, yeah, as somebody at his age, Chris, to go to address the team, and it was from what we've heard, it was well received. He addresses the team after practice. Team, it's well received from him, and that's showing a leadership beyond his years, and that's not Alex Van Pelt. He asked if he could address them, and of course they let him. So that's just him. That's his intrinsic nature, and that's, listen. He's just turning 22 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, so and that, Chris, is a direct contrast to Caleb Williams, because all you hear out of Chicago is his body language. He's not leading. He's not taking control of that Chicago offense and saying,
I'm sorry, who had that to say? Who had that to say during the draft and after that about in our breakdown of Caleb Williams and what was going to be the issue?
No, you did. You did. No, you did. And listen, that doesn't mean Caleb Williams isn't going to become an all-pro quarterback. Yeah. I still think he has the talent. I just think Chicago right now is a dumpster fire, and they got to figure things out themselves.
But they have good receivers.
They do. So I don't know what's happening there, but
your offensive line
shows about they do. But this shows about the New England Patriots. So, but I just wanted to contrast the fact that Maye is doing all of the right things, saying the right things, is mature beyond his football experience and his age of obviously only being 22. And I would say, Chris, in his maturity level, he may even be beyond what Jaden Daniels is, even though Jaden Daniels has been starting from day one and looks like he's probably going to be rookie of the year.
Yeah.
But Daniels, I think, is got a different skill set, is in a different situation. They're running an offense that's different for his skill set. So I give Washington credit. But I think Maye, Chris, might even be more mature in the way he's leading and handling things than maybe, considering his team is terrible.
Yeah.
In comparison to Jaden, I want to see Jaden Daniels be dropped in the middle of this offense,
right,
with this talent level, and see if he'd be doing what he's doing and
I
how
agree.
he would handle.
I think, I think he's going to end up being the best out of the three. I've seen enough to see now that I think we got our quarterback now. I mean, he doesn't give up on plays either. He found Osborne. Osborne went out of, no awareness of where he is on the field. Friggin' Osborne. But
that's a whole nother
Osborne went out of bounds and came back in, but Maye was to the sideline, and I mean, he had like maybe a millimeter before he stepped out, and he drilled that ball in, and that was a catch. That would have been a touchdown.
He did end up catching it. You're right. That would have been a catch. You're right.
So he's accurate on his throws. Especially when he's on the run, he's good at avoiding negative plays, and he's getting better on the center. So, I thought he had a great game. I mean, he only threw the ball 25 times, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. They ran really well. But I think, I think you're in good shape with this quarterback from here forward.
You are, but Chris, the offense still.
Well, let's get to that.
Is limiting, and we got a lot to say on that.
Yeah, so let's talk about that now.
Listen, your favorite formation. Your favorite formation is the bunch formation with 2 tight ends. You love that. You love it.
I mean, they had 328 yards of offense. Mark, listen, this week
they played the Little Sisters of the Poor.
Well, you look, you
Right
can't,
out loud.
you can't do that every damn week. Okay. You know, look, we come down on them. Joe's going to love this. We come down on them every week. We need to give them the props when they deserve it. They had 328 total yards of offense.
Joe.
And they rush for, come on, Mark. They rushed for 144 yards. I mean, you got to give them some props. The play calling was better. It was better across the board. You got to see that. I don't like the formations. I have criticisms. I got some things on here that I didn't like. You know, tight ends on the field. Yes.
That list is always there.
Yeah.
Okay. So all I'm saying is this. You're right. You're going to give them some props for what they did. And we're going to go through what they did and the reason why I want to give them some props. However, I've been listening to the media. I've been listening to what's been going on all week. Let's temper it a bit because they played they played the bottom of the barrel. You didn't do that against the Buffalo Bills. You didn't do that against a playoff team. You did it against the bottom of the barrel, a team that's worse than you. So let's give them their props for what they did well this week. They showed a little improvement, but let's temper it because of the competition they played against, Chris, too.
Yeah. Well, okay. I mean, so the props I'm going to give are to, the offensive line. Okay. There was 144. You said it, that they're going to have to run the ball. New England's going to have to, but they should be able to run it, and they needed to run it, and they did. 144 yards rushing. There was only one sack given up, but he was hit 7 times. Now, he didn't run a lot. They clogged those gaps pretty good, and they played some zone, and he wasn't able to get out. But they hit him 7 times, which is still a problem. But he only one sack. So I thought back to the normal offensive line that you saw the previous 2 games to Tennessee. Okay, that worked. That combination of Lowe, Brown, Lowe. What is it? Jordan, Jacobs, Brown.
Yeah.
Owino and Jacobs. Yeah. So I thought that they played well. I thought the backs were much better. Stevenson, I thought, played a hell of a lot better.
Hasty was a good change of pace this week. Stevenson played better, and I like the way they used Hasty, Chris, as a change of pace back, and Gibson as a change of pace back. I liked how the 3 of them worked together this week and how they actually used that one personnel group correctly.
So
not the others, but that one.
Yeah. So I thought they played well. The wide receivers. Okay.
Here we go.
Here comes the.
I
mean, the wide receivers still can't. They're still running sloppy routes, Mark. Yeah. I mean, they just. I don't understand what's happening with this group. I get it. I don't like the 2 tight ends on the field more than not. But that's what we're going to see, right?
Listen, no matter what anybody thinks, this is what they're going to run all 17 weeks this year. That was 16 games, 17 games. That's what they're running, Chris. That's what they're going to run. Yep. It just
pisses you off that how many times he dropped back and there was nowhere to go with the ball.
Yeah.
And now Osborne played more, which I didn't agree with. No. They won't put Baker on the field.
Every time Baker's on the field, Chris, I told you this during the game, and lo and behold, it happened again. Whenever he's on the field, it's a running play. Yeah. They don't put him in. They don't put him out in any type of pattern. So why are you putting him on the field if all you're going to do is run the ball every time he's on the field? What are you wasting time for? I still think, Chris, he's capable of getting himself open if you give him certain routes to run. His route tree, I think that maybe it's limited at this point, if that's what they think. But I think whatever tree he can run, I think he can get open. But every time he's on the field, Chris, I'm telling you, we tracked it Sunday. Every time he was on the field, they ran the ball.
Let's hear what Mayo had to say after the game about the coordinators.
I thought the coordinators did an excellent job the entire week, not only reiterating the message that I said in the squad meeting rooms, but also just putting together a good game plan and knowing how we have to win football games. And that's through controlling the line of scrimmage, and kind of talked about that.
So I agree. The coordinators were better. But talking about Alex Van Pelt.
You know what upsets me about that comment, Chris? Knowing how we have to win football games. You're not going to win football games playing that way against most teams, Chris. What the hell? He's back to that mentality. Listen, they should have kept Belichick. Then what the hell was the point? If that's your mentality, you want to win games with 19 points a game?
This was more like the Cincinnati game and the Seattle game.
Yes. It's not sustainable.
talking about Alex Van Pelt, okay?
Oh, that pisses me off, that comment.
I know. And it pissed you off when you heard it that day, too. They're still running very simple routes.
Of course they are.
There's too much tight end in this offense. You're running a bunch formation with 2 tight ends. Now, that's okay if you're running a wide receiver screen. You might as well wear it on your chest, a sign that says, hey, we're throwing a screen. We're throwing a missile screen right now. We got the 2 tight ends out there to block. Okay, the play action they ran on goal line was a good call, Mark. You called it before the play. They should run play action here. They did it. But 3rd and goal, 2 tight ends and a running back, Mark.
Chris, that's what they do.
I'm talking about split out now. I'm not even talking about the backs in the backfield. I'm
Chris,
talking about
they've done that before with the running back. 2 tight ends and a running back. Why are you doing that down there?
Yeah.
Tell me one other team in the league that's going to do that. Nobody. There's nobody in the league that's going to do that.
No, I don't like it. I don't like it, but I mean, it worked this week. There was a particular play that I saw that I liked, and I thought, you know what? I got to give Van Pelt credit for this. Okay.
Oh, here we go. What play was this?
Everybody's got some good news.
Right. So there was that pass to Hooper on that over-under route, deep down the center of the field. Good play design. Okay, it was a real good play design. What they had was, they had it coming across from 2 angles, and so they put one of those guys were in the slot, one of them was down, and they ended up running a high-low route concept with those 2 guys, and then they ran some other routes to take the safety. The Chicago was in like a robber look where they brought the safety down, and so you had other guys on the opposite side of the route pulling those players away, and it ended up it was either going to be read that safety, and either Hooper's going to be open on the over route or Hunter Henry's going to be open on the under route. But I thought it was a real good play design, and they executed it well. So he had a better game, Alex Van Pelt. He had a better game than he's had, Mark.
Okay. Yeah.
So
all right.
That's what I thought.
Let me ask you this, though, Chris. Who is the wide receivers coach in this team? Because we replaced Troy Brown because we thought he was terrible.
Yeah,
but the guy they replaced him with isn't much better, because the development, Chris, you would think there'd be some development of these receivers, the younger ones anyways. I mean, I guess you could say Booth is developing, but I think that's more about his talent level that he had in college.
Yeah, Tyler Hughes.
Yeah, I'm not impressed with him.
It's his first season, obviously, we know that. He was I think he was at Washington Huskies. I think he was over there.
I'm not impressed with him, Chris, because you mean to tell me he can't get more out of Baker at this point? You can't develop Baker?
Anything.
I mean, come on.
Anything.
I don't know.
So, look, the offense was better. They had a lot of yards, less penalties. The offensive line played well. Van Pelt was better in his play calling. So, Mark, let's give him some props for that. Okay?
All right. Yeah, we'll give him
some props for that. So, when we come back, we're going to talk about the defense and see if we can give them props as well. But this portion of Weekly Rewind was presented by the Pats Nation. Sundays, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern. We're usually the first pregame show, right, for the Patriots on the same network. It carries 790 The Score. So make sure you're tuning into that. Tomorrow we're going to have our preview of the Rams game. Stick around for that. But when we come back, we're going to continue in Weekly Rewind, talk a little defense, and so much more.
Sundays are for football. And here in New England, that means it's the Pats Nation with CORSO and CATONE.
You have the worst wide receiver room in the National Football League.
This is why the Patriots need us in the draft room. Let's see what the Pats Nation thinks about that, Mark.
Starting June 30th, Sundays, 8 to 9 a.m. on 790 The Score.
Back in with more CORSO and CATONE, the real deal New England feel. Okay, so talking about the defense, Mark, in this. And just to set it up, the Bears, it was a good day. I mean, the Bears had 142 total yards, okay, of offense, which is a far cry from the 400 they've been allowing to other teams. Like they allowed 400 in Tennessee.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Caleb Williams was through 16. I got to put the glasses on, Mark. I can't.
Oh, my God.
Damn.
Here we go.
16 to 30 for 120 yards. But let's just start with this. 9 sacks.
Okay.
9 sacks, Mark.
There we go. 9 sacks. All right. 9 sacks.
Oh, 9 sacks, 13 quarterback hits. How does that happen? I mean, how do they go from what you saw against Tennessee to now this?
Well, Chris, first of all, they had 4 offensive linemen out. Okay. 4
Boy,
offensive linemen.
Joe, he doesn't want to give anybody credit.
No, but Chris, they had 4 offensive line. Listen, I'll give them credit. They had 9 sacks, but I'm just trying to temper this because they had the linemen out. Chicago only had 240 yards the week before of offense as well. The week before that, they've struggled 3 weeks in a row. But your defense played better. We're going to break it down further and talk about. I know, Chris, you were very impressed with some of the stuff that Covington did this week. You thought he disguised things well this week. Some of the packages and some of the blitzing and some of the things he did a good job of disguising what they were actually in. And I know you want to talk about a play specifically where Marcus Jones breaks up a pass out into the flat where it appeared as though he was doing one thing, but he really wasn't. And he picks the guy up out of the backfield, which is what he was supposed to do because of the eyes that they were in. So, yeah, I'll give the defense credit. I'll give Covington credit, Chris, for doing some things differently this week. It wasn't as basic and vanilla, and it wasn't as easy to read and to figure out what they were doing as past weeks. And you brought up Cincinnati, Chris. This week, he went back to some of what he did with Cincinnati in regards to how well he was disguising things to confuse a rookie quarterback, right?
Yeah.
And he definitely didn't know what he was seeing. He was definitely confused. So, yeah, they I'll give them credit. I mean, I'm joking around. Yeah, they did have 4 offensive linemen out. I just wanted to preface that at the beginning. But the defense played better, Chris, in regards to what Covington did and some of the schemes that he did. However, I probably could have made some of those passes Caleb Williams missed, the guys that were wide open, and he just missed them wide open.
Yeah.
So that to me was, I can't believe that Caleb Williams was missing some of those throws because that had nothing to do with the Patriots. It was purely on Caleb Williams that he missed some of those guys, Chris, that were wide open. He was underthrowing them, overthrowing them, throwing them at their feet. I don't know what he was doing.
Yeah, listen, he was bad. Okay, Caleb Williams was bad, as I said, but I thought the second, but I really want to talk about that rush, that defensive front. First of all, Farms had the game of his life.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, my God, he was, where's his line? He had five total, 4 solo tackles. He had a sack. He had 3 tackles for losses. One that was the quarterback hit. I mean,
he was in the backfield all game.
But some of the stats, right, that aren't showing up as how he forced Williams to throw the ball quicker. He's, much quicker than he wanted to throw. So he played really well. They only allowed 73 yards rushing, which is, my God, that's what we've been looking for. Okay. Their run fits was so much better. Okay. It helped with what was going on in the secondary. Okay. Because they did play man, but they did mix it up and played zone man. And it was a lot of disguising. And I thought they gave the offensive line some issues. They ran that, everybody's making a big deal about this Longhorn package that they ran with Schooler. Well, I like him. I liked him in the preseason.
Yeah, you did.
But when you
thought he would get more play coming out of.
Yeah, preseason. I mean, he basically he spied Caleb Williams all day. But what they did with him is they put him in a gap. They lined him up down, and then they drop him out. And what ended up happening was the offensive line, everything always would slide. And so Williams would slide to the wrong side, Caleb Williams, and Schooler would go with him. And that's how he got his sack. He just come off the edge. So when you have guys like Schooler, Pettis, the safeties getting sacks, that tells you the scheme was good. Because those guys, those guys are not all pro. They're not. There's not Ed Reed we're talking about out there. We're not talking about Troy Polamalu. You know what I mean? So when those guys are getting sacks and they're getting the quarterback and they're stopping the run the way they did, that's Covington. I mean, he did a much better job disguising cover 2 to cover 1. You saw a lot of that where they looked like they had 2 high safeties up, and then it would drop to all man coverage and with one safety over the top, like that McCourty position. But the blitz package, Mark, the pressure they were getting. I know the offensive line sucks for Chicago, but 9 sacks?
I'll give him credit, Chris. Some of those sacks was because of the packages that they put in place. Absolutely, it was, Chris, positively.
And I don't even have. I mean, they hit him 13 times.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't even know any other. You know, I don't have the numbers on the total quarterback pressures, but they were getting pressured most of the time. Anytime he dropped back,
they were. And some of those hits, Chris, though, were also, I would say, was like we were saying about Jacoby Brissett. I think some of those were on Caleb Williams too, Chris, because he didn't know what he was seeing, and I guess you got to give credit to the defense, but he held on to the ball. He just looked looked lost. He looked lost out there. And listen, like I said, Chris, 2 days later they fired the offensive coordinator, who they paid a lot of money to get. They outbid some teams for that guy Waldron. He was supposed to be a good OC. This is one. And he doesn't make it through half the season, or barely. He makes it through half the season, I guess. They fire him. You know.
I get that. I understand all that. You know what, Mark? I'm trying to be friggin' positive today.
I'm being listen.
Joe, I'm trying to be positive. You know,
listen, I'm being positive.
You know,
I'm being positive. I'm just saying that I think it was both. I think they played really well. They had a good scheme working. Covington, I gave Covington props at the beginning of the segment, but I also think that Chicago was just so bad right now that anybody is going to have a better week against them.
I'll tell you one thing. You guys, I'm seeing the pattern every time you guys talk about something specific, whether it be the defensive creating more rush and more pressure, and the offensive doing something with the coordination. I see them put it in place the next week. And you guys I see the pattern happening. It's not the whole game. It's usually the beginning of the game with Van Pelt and the defense. This is the first time I've ever seen the defense do any rushing like that in a long time.
Well, what the hell do you think we're doing over here, Joe?
I know, I'm giving you guys the props.
We are the real deal New England feel. Of course we know what the hell we're talking about.
I feel like they're listening out there in Patriot land. They got us tuned in.
They should not. And then the only other thing I wanted, so we give out props as they should. Now we'll see what happens against the Rams. And tomorrow when we talk on Pat's Nation about the Rams game, we'll see. But Joe, do you have that cut? Last thing I wanted to do. Do you have that cut on Maye on the defense?
I do. Let me cue that one up here.
And so this was while he's doing that. Just another example of this kid. I'm high on this kid. I really am on Drake Maye. And this is how he gets the whole team behind him.
I want to say something too. Go ahead.
Let's hear it.
Phones down, notepads down real quick. Clap it up for the defense, man. Clap it up. Somebody else clap it up. There we go. Appreciate you. There we go.
Drake, let's start with that defense. What was it like to watch them perform on a day like that?
Man, it's a good feeling sitting over there, as offense, as a quarterback, that type of defense performance. I feel like, the 11 were out there at a time, but I know 15, 20 played. Just credit to them. And, practice this week, man, just kind of a good taste of, what it looks like, what it looked like for me in training camp. And they get after you, mix up shell, mix up coverage, mix up blitz packages. It's pretty cool to watch. And it's good to be on the other side of the ball. So I got to make some better decisions and keep those guys in good field position.
Dude, he's got that locker room.
Oh, he absolutely does. Positive. Listen, that goes back. We was just saying how mature he is compared to these other rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I
just had to play that because I liked it. I liked hearing that.
No, you loved it. You immediately called me when you heard that, and you're like, "Are you listening to this kid?" Right? But listen, the first clip he played when the female reporter asked him the question she asked him. For a second, because we haven't heard from her in a while, I thought it was Jen from Cranston that was interviewing him. I said, what is she doing on Cranston?
Maybe it is, and we don't know. Maybe it is, and we don't know. So look, they played well. We give them their props. There are some things they got to clean up. We know that. It's going to be a real test tomorrow against the Rams. So stick around. We'll figure that out. But let's give them their props for this week in this 19-3 loss. Weekly Rewind was presented by CORSO Law Group, CORSOLawGroup.com. Hey, we took a little while here. We took cutting into Catone's comments.
This is a weekly thing now with you.
I'm sure he's ready to go, and he's going to let you have it. Stick around.
No one ever thinks they'll be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Whether it's a traffic ticket or more serious issue, go to CORSOLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys.
Time for Catone
I know it's football season, but listen, you know I'm a die-hard baseball fan. I have to bring back up baseball. I have, before we close out for the season. This is supposed to be free agency time for the baseball. Is anybody? I mean, granted, Soto's a free agent, so yes, we do have an interest if you're a Yankee fan. However, is there a free agency frenzy? Is there like a big thing for baseball free agency? It's starting. Nothing. Not you get little glimpses of something on social media or if you're following a team or something. There's nothing. There's nothing there's nothing. MLB Network. There's nothing happening. It's mind-boggling to me that a sport that has struggled to get ratings and to bring the fan base back does nothing to market free agency and to market themselves. They become irrelevant. From the day the World Series ends, they become irrelevant as a sport until spring training starts. And even at that, there's no real excitement generated until once the season gets going and there's some, because when it first starts spring training, it's March Madness. People are obsessed with college basketball at that point in time. And then you roll into the NBA playoffs. And so by the time people are really paying attention to baseball, it's summer, right? But now that baseball, now that basketball ends, baseball does nothing to market themselves. I've brought this up in the past, but it's mind-boggling to me. Mind-boggling. Then, because Soto is a free agent, this is comical and it makes me laugh. Now, all of a sudden, the Red Sox are going to meet with Boris and Soto. Listen, if you think, as a Red Sox fan, that they're signing Juan Soto, you're living on another planet. Because they did the same thing with Ohtani last year. Remember? Oh, the Red Sox want to talk to Ohtani. They were never signing Ohtani, and they're never signing Soto. That's a farce. This is this team's mirage because listen, this isn't they've now modeled themselves after these small market teams. They're not going to go spend. They spent their money on Devers, and that's it. They got some young guys coming up that they'll eventually, if they develop into what they think they're going to be, they'll have to spend money on. They're not signing Soto. Stop fooling us. Stop playing with the emotions of your fans because you know you're not spending that kind of money as a Red Sox organization. Nothing they have done shows you that they're going to do that. But they're doing that to act like, oh, no, we're in the market to improve this team. That's a crock of BS, and they ought to be ashamed of themselves. And the fact that Cora re-signed here, he ought to be ashamed of himself because this organization isn't going to use the resources they have, because they have them, to do anything to push this team forward. They're going to play with the guys they got. They'll make a few small signings to add to the roster. And they're just going to continue to do what they're doing and hope they catch lightning in a bottle with a couple of these young guys. So the Red Sox, their offseason has already started. This whole joke that they've become the last 2 or 3 years, it's starting already when we're going to meet with Soto. That's a bunch of bull BS. They ain't signing Soto. Now, the Yankees, on the other hand, they start out by extending Boone a year. They pick up his option for Aaron Boone. Like, really, Chris? Really? Like, I don't understand what makes you think that he's now going to he got you to the World Series. You had a cakewalk to get there. It just fell perfectly for you in the American League. The teams that you struggled against all season happened to get knocked out. You didn't have to beat them. You make it to the World Series. You put together an embarrassing performance in the World Series. You call yourself the New York Yankees, and you bring back Boone. He mismanaged the bullpen in the World Series, mismanaged pinch hitters in the World Series, and you bring him back. You pick up his player option, and Cashman's back. So it's Steinbrenner, Hal Steinbrenner, same thing. They're all back. Are you kidding me? They have this group has shown you no reason to think they're going to take you to a World Series and win one. And now I'm reading today, well, Alex Verdugo would love to come back. I don't want any part of Alex Verdugo. Don't let him on the bus. Don't let him in the stadium. Get rid of him. Get rid of him. Give him a cup of coffee and ship him out. Get him out. Do not re-sign him. Please do not re-sign him. You got Jason Dominguez waiting in the wings. They call him the Martian for a reason. Put him out there and let him get his at-bats. He's going to, hopefully he stays healthy, has a full spring training. And this moron Boone says, well, I think we have a big role for him coming, this year and moving forward in the future. You should have pinch hit him in the World Series, you idiot. You pinch hit Alex Trevino? Oh, my. Please. 2 shots of bourbon. I could hit the ball as far as he did in that pinch hit performance. What a shame. I'm disgusted. But baseball's disgusted me. How this has developed, baseball. Really, baseball's become such a joke.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. Listen, it's going to take $600 million to sign this guy. For like what? What's the term? 14 years, like 10, 15
12,
years, whatever.
The Red Sox aren't signing him.
You got a better chance of the Oakland A's signing him.
Right,
than Boston.
Well, but they're going to talk to him. Yeah, okay, you're talking to him. Okay.
Right. They're going to have to borrow money from all his other interests. Liverpool, the Pittsburgh Penguins, and all this other. There's no way.
He does that,
no way they get it done.
That's a 360 turnaround. If he does that, well, then, okay, now we know why Alex Cora stayed. Because now, all of a sudden, Alex Henry totally changed the whole philosophy of this franchise. That's not happening.
So you wouldn't sign Betts.
You wouldn't sign Bogarts. But you're going to sign him.
Devers was your big thing.
But you're going to sign him? No way.
Yeah, Cora
you shipped out Sale because you didn't want to pay the final year of his contract, Chris, but you're going to go spend that kind of money. And Sale was in the running for the National League Cy Young. He had such a good year with Atlanta.
But I should have learned how to hit a ball better.
Oh, my God, right? Yeah.
God. You know what I mean? All guaranteed money. New York, though, Joe, you kept talking about people listening to us. No, nobody over there is listening to us.
Nope.
Because we had it all pegged with Boone. For how long? I mean, look what his performance was in the damn World Series, in the Cleveland series. I mean, it was just atrocious. Panicking, bringing guys in, Mark.
And they immediately picked up that option on him. Immediately.
Yeah, you're 1,000% right. And you know what? After Soto gets signed somewhere, I don't know. It's crickets. Nobody's going to care. Nobody cares. No one cares.
But even that, Chris, you've got a guy at his level.
Pitchers and catchers report in what, 2.5 months, something like that?
Yeah, the prime of his career, and there's no hype. There's no hype around free agency at all, Chris.
No.
You couldn't name one free agent in Major League Baseball besides Soto. Nobody could. You can't even name him.
But yet, they're still, by sport, one of the highest revenue sports out of the 4 major.
Chris, it's amazing to me.
How the hell is that? So it's all those TV deals. It's all those regional deals.
Oh, sure it is. Yep.
Mark, you're right. Nobody cares. I'm not saying nobody cares about Catone's comment, but nobody else cares. Good stuff, Mark. Catone's comments was presented by the Pats Nation Sundays, 8 a.m. Eastern, pregame show for the Patriots game on the same network, 790 The Score. So make sure you're tuning in and get a preview of the Rams game tomorrow. But hey, when we come back, we're going to talk B's and C's, no flipping.
Sundays are for football. And here in New England, that means it's the Pats Nation with CORSO and CATONE.
You have the worst wide receiver room in the National Football League.
This is why the Patriots need us in the draft room. Let's see what the Pats Nation thinks about that, Mark.
Starting June 30th, Sundays, 8 to 9 a.m. on 790 The Score.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. All right, B's, C's, Joe.
Hit it! The Boston Celtics are the world champions, and they have shown the world how great a ball club they really are. Screen shot,
Okay, Mark, let's talk Bruins first. Let's get that out of the way, okay? If we can. Off to a bad start. I mean, we see it. We know it. It isn't even that they're losing games. It's the way they look. It's the way they're carrying themselves. And I think it starts with the coach. I mean, look, they won against the St. Louis Blues the other night, earlier in the week.
And they did something they don't typically do, right? They come back in the third period, win it in regulation. They came back, from 2 goals down?
2-0. It was down 2-0, and they came back and they won it 3-2 in regulation. You're right. No overtime. So we'll give them props for that game, okay? But it doesn't – the problems are not solved, and it's just getting worse. And it just feels like Montgomery – I think he's lost that room completely. But they get outworked almost in every game. It's sloppy. Up and down the ice, both defensively, offensively, sloppy. Turnovers in their own end. Bad penalties in both ends. But the penalties in the offensive end, Mark, when the hell do you see that? I mean, you get penalties in your defensive end because, they're buzzing around and you hook. Something happens. But you're in your own, you're on the offense now. You're in their end, and you're committing sloppy penalties like Pastrnak had one the other night. It's just lazy stuff like that, Mark.
But Chris, they wanted the players coach. They got rid of the hot guy. They got rid of the hot ass. They got this guy in.
And Cassidy wins the cup the year after.
Cassidy wins the cup the year after. Now you're stuck with this guy, and now it's clearly Chris. He's kind of lost his team. We think the locker room, but Chris. They're a 500 hockey team, pretty much. What are they? They're playing
8,
about
7, whatever they are.
Yeah, they're about a 500 hockey team, and I don't see that changing, Chris. They're going to struggle at this point to probably make the playoffs. You're a 500 hockey team. Sometimes you don't make the cut. You may not get in. So here's a team 2 years ago that had the best historically best record, most points in hockey
in history.
They're going to struggle to even get in to the playoffs. Like, do you think this guy survives the end of the year, like the end of this, like say the holidays by Christmas? You think he's still here?
I'm surprised he's still here. No, I don't think he's going to survive. No, I mean, look, huge gaps. Like when you watch them play in their own end on defense, there's enormous gaps between the blue liners and downward. The defense sinks down real low in front of the goalie, and there's these big, huge gaps in between that you're seeing. I mean, it's like these teams are shocked when they're in there, thinking there's nobody around me, and it's shot after shot after shot after shot. Meanwhile, on the other end, there are no shots. We don't get a shot. There was a third period we get a shot on goal.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
And the face-offs are terrible. They're missing passes.
And Chris, they have nobody that you can even say, well, you know what? They got a couple of young guys coming up that they're going to change the trajectory. They're either maybe mid-season or in the future, because they've made so many trade deadline trades to try to win a cup. Right. They gave up draft picks after draft pick. They really don't have any young talent, Chris, that you can point to and say, but these guys are gonna, when they come up, we're gonna, they come up later in the year, maybe they push you, or next year they're gonna be ready. They got nothing. Nothing's coming to save you.
No, I know, and talk about and the last thing I'll say is about the power play. Their special teams are atrocious. I mean, they were against St. Louis. I keep bringing that up. They were 0 for 4 on the power play. Okay. But it isn't even that they're 0 for 4. It isn't even that they're 0 for. It's shots. They don't even get shots.
Chris, that's a carryover from the playoffs last year. Remember in the playoffs last year in that Florida series? They weren't even getting shots on power plays. No. And it's just a continuation from there.
So for you Bruins fans out there, it's going to be a long year. It's already been a long year. I wouldn't expect Montgomery to last. Maybe if he goes,
what about the goaltending, Chris? Quick, because we gave him a ton of money before we move on.
Yeah, he's not worth it. Nobody's worth it. Nobody's worth $8 million. You're 7 or 8, 7, whatever it is. So let's flip to the Celtics now, okay? And I want to talk about the Atlanta loss in that, whatever that tournament thing was.
Oh, that
that
stupid
one,
thing.
yeah, that 117-116 loss. And I wanted to hear from Missoula. We heard from him after the game, Joe.
They played harder and they played more physical than we did, and they got 20 offensive rebounds and forced us into 20 turnovers. So you let a team outshoot you by the shot margin like that, and you're not going to win. Yeah.
You agree?
Can you the turnovers? A lot of them were just careless entry passes. What can you attribute to kind of just the carelessness with the ball?
Their physicality, their ball pressure, to a couple of passes on our heels, their long, active hands, but just didn't. Some of the reads were there, they just didn't connect on the passes. But it's a credit to their physicality and their ball pressure.
He says it. How many times did he say physicality?
Yeah, several. So is that his way of calling the team out? Yeah,
Absolutely.
I would say so, right? Absolutely. He's not a confrontational guy with the team, it doesn't seem like, but he's definitely calling them out. I mean, yeah, you're right, Chris. What did he say? 3 times, 4 times? Physicality, right? I mean, come on. And then the one thing with him, Chris, is so I give him credit for calling out the physicality, right? But then he also brings up the shots, right? 20 turnovers. They outshot. They took way more shots than we did because of the 20 turnovers, and you can't win that way. But that's always been his obsession, Chris. You know, the more shots you take, and if you're taking 3-pointers, you're going to eventually win the game because your 3-pointers, and if you're doubling their shots, you're eventually going to score more points than they will. And that's been his philosophy since last year, which you and I absolutely couldn't stand when he did that last year, Chris. I was saying about the shots. Well, they got more shots than we do. But, Chris, that's his philosophy. You can get more shots in their 3-pointers, then you're going to win most of your games, right? And that's not that's not what is necessarily happening.
Yeah.
You know, and they've lost almost as many home games this year, Chris, as they did all of last year.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, for those of you out there on YouTube, I'm having issues with the camera today. Having a few issues with the camera, but you can hear me.
One other thing before we go, you take it back over. We talked about this, you and I, at the end of last season.
Yeah.
Even after they won it and during the season, but they did win the championship. Is that sustainable? Is the style of play that won them a championship, is that sustainable year after year? I don't know if that's sustainable. I mean, I don't know.
No, it's not. I don't. It's not sustainable. Look, for all that you talked about, he wants to shoot 3-pointers by percentages. Well, you know what? For all you nerds out there that like that, didn't work against the Hawks, did it? They were 18 of 45, 40%.
And Chris, that hasn't worked in a couple of games. And every time they've lost.
Yeah, you shoot 40%. The math says that you're going to win the game. Didn't work in that particular game. So
most games they lost
27%. They had 68 points in the paint. Am I looking at that right? They had 68 points in the paint to 32. That's how you lost the game.
Well, he talked about the physicality, so I'm assuming that's what he was talking about, Chris.
Well, you turn the ball. Right? I mean, then you want to turn the ball over 20 times. I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, 20 turnovers. I mean, shit, they had 16, the Hawks.
Chris, with their with their guards and their playmakers, there's no excuse for turning the ball over 20 times. That should never happen with their roster.
And what I think pisses him off even more than anything, okay, is the rebounds. The 19 offensive rebounds to 6. There's your physicality. There's your issue. Okay? Because you get out rebound. I mean, fine. Defensive rebounds 28, 25, the Celts. But when you get on the offensive end, and it was just you watched that game, right? It was sloppy. It was ugly. You know, even at the end of the game, they had a chance to win. They give up the offensive rebound and they tap it back in. Nobody's rotating over. No, it's just simple as this. Nobody's boxing out. Like, they're not finding a guy and boxing them out as you would do in, youth basketball, okay, and learn to do it there. They're just – do you feel like – and so we know that game was a mess. But do you feel like they're rolling their, they're rolling their helmets out and feel like they could just win?
Yeah, no, I do. I think they just think, Chris, that they have so much talent that it's and even some of the games they've won, Chris. As you watch the game, it's like we can roll out, do what we do, play our game, and we're gonna eventually wear this team down, outshoot them, outscore them, and we'll win the game. Because there's been a few games, Chris, they've had to score a lot of points to win. They haven't played a lot of good defense. And yes, Porzingis, I'll give him the excuse, Chris. He's not there. And they'll be more physical, and they'll be better in the paint when Porzingis comes back. But you made a good point, Chris, during the Atlanta game. You said, but Mark, even if he comes back, you don't know how long he lasts. He's injury prone. Is he even going to be there for the playoffs? So you're going to have to either bring in somebody at the trade deadline. You're going to have to try to figure this out, Chris, because I don't know if you can win a championship the way they're playing in the paint right now. And I know it's early. It's only, it's November. But early things that didn't show up last year, Chris, are showing up. And you brought up the home losses already.
They have two home losses? They had 4 total last year?
Yeah. So those things
they're getting outworked. Like, they're getting outworked in a lot of games. And even in the wins, even in some of these wins, they're still getting outworked.
Yeah. And how about your friend at the end of the game again, Tatum, regulation?
I can't put the ball in his hands. When I need somebody, call in Heated Hotline, email us. Somebody tell me the last time he had a game winner. Yeah. I'd rather put it in Pritchard's hands. Honestly.
And we're referring to anyone that missed that Atlanta game in the end of regulation. Again, they tried to get the ball in his hands. It was sloppy.
Takes that fall away from the top of the 3-point line. Like, come on.
Yeah. It's not.
Sucks.
It
sucks. So we'll see what happens. Let us know what you think in Heated Hotline. And with the time we have left, speaking of basketball, let's talk about the PC Friars mock basketball program with our alumnus here, Mr. PC Fryer himself, Mark CATONE. How's this team looking? What do we think?
So they're struggling right now. They're winning. They've won 2-3 games already, 3 games, but they're struggling, Chris, because they won the other night against Hampton, who is a low-level D1 team. It was like a 4-point game with like 4 minutes to go, and then we pulled away a little bit. We had created a few turnovers. They only had 7 healthy players for a while practicing. They're now starting to get healthy. Kim English, the head coach, is figuring out rotations, figuring out who will play with who and what of his combinations. Bryce Hopkins, their potential first-team All-Big East player, is not back yet from his torn ACL from last year. They're hoping to get him back maybe by they go Thanksgiving week. They go to the Bahamas, Paradise Island, for the Battle of Atlantis. They hope to get him back by then. If not, by the Big East season opener. He's going to add a big difference to the team. But they're working through the kinks right now and trying to get rotations right.
Did they get some guys?
They got some guys back.
Because last year that was a problem. The guys that Cooley had didn't fit with.
No, he's now got the guys that he wanted, Chris. This is his team now. So the pieces are his. They supposedly, the guys he brought in will fit his system. They haven't shown it yet, but he's still trying to figure out this team because he said they had a lot of guys out for long stretches, late summer, early fall, when you should be developing your team. So we'll see.
Well, we'll see what happens. So still tournament? Yes?
I still think they can be an NCAA tournament team. If they're healthy and Hopkins comes back healthy, I think they're 4th in the Big East, maybe 5 at worst. And I think the Big East gets 5 teams in this year. But I think they should finish 4th. And if they finish 4th, that gets you in the NCAA tournament.
Well, you heard it here first. Let us know what you think. For PC Nation out there, Mr. Fryer, let us know what you think. Are they a tournament team or not? But hey, CORSO and CATONE was presented by the Pats Nation, Sundays, 8 a.m. Eastern. Tomorrow, we're going to preview that Rams game, so stick around. Make sure you're tuning into that on 790 The Score and all the outlets. And make sure you come back next weekend to this show, noon Eastern. We're going to recap that same game, Rams game, and so much more. We are CORSO and CATONE, the real deal, New England feel. See you next Saturday.
Now find CORSO and CATONE on AM 790, The Score, iHeartRadio, iTunes, wherever you podcast. or subscribe to the YouTube channel and catch the chaos every Saturday at noon.